I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, SeaWorld is appealing an order to stop breeding killer whales. Also, we've got another freezing night ahead. San Diegans seek shelter from the extreme cold in this first year without the city's temporary tents. Also tonight, some good news about the Sierra snowpack. It's above normal, but what does it mean for the drought? We'll check it out on the KPBS Drought Tracker. Should owners of multi-million-dollar properties pay an extra surcharge on their taxes? We'll tell you about a ballot initiative making the rounds right now. And a favorite haunt of local movie lovers is back with some improvements. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. SeaWorld has filed a legal challenge to a state coastal commission order to stop breeding killer whales. The order was part of the agency's approval for SeaWorld's Blue World project, an enlarged exhibit for the orcas. SeaWorld says animal welfare is not within the coastal commission's jurisdiction and says the no breeding order is illegal. SeaWorld has been heavily criticized for its treatment of killer whales. Earlier this year, the marine park unveiled plans to end its killer whale shows. San Diego is bracing for another very cold night. The National Weather Service has issued a frost advisory for Southern California's inland valleys and mountains. San Diegans will see temperatures in the 30s and 40s tonight. Volunteers and staff at Father Joe's Villages converted their downtown cafeterias into temporary sleeping quarters for the homeless last night. This is the first year the city of San Diego hasn't had tents for the homeless. Father Joe's can take up to 250 extra people in its cafeteria.
Just for me, coming out in the morning, it's freezing, so I would just imagine that in order to keep warm at night for people that are sleeping on the sidewalk or in tents or just, with nothing but the clothes on their back, it has to be miserable.
66 people stayed at Father Joe's last night. The cafeteria is opened as an additional shelter whenever the forecast calls for temperatures below 50 degrees and a 40% or higher chance of rain. New England's getting socked with its first snowstorm of the season. Up to 10 inches is expected in some areas. Last year, Boston got a record-breaking 110 inches of snow, but forecasters are predicting a more normal snow season this year. Floods are the worry in the central U.S. This video is from Union, Missouri, where heavy rains are swelling rivers to all-time highs. Some are going as much as 30 feet above flood level. At least 13 people have died in the flooding. Later in this newscast, we'll check in with KPBS weather reporter Molly Cochran for the forecast. But right now, let's take a look at what's going on around the rest of our drought-stricken state. Science reporter David Wagner has the latest numbers from our KPBS Drought Tracker.
As of this morning, the average Sierra snowpack level was at 38% of what normally piles up by April 1st. Those levels are a lot better than the past 2 years of California's drought, but they're still fairly average levels for this time of year. Rainfall throughout the state is also close to historical averages at 39%. Scripps Institution of Oceanography climate researcher David Pierce says this year's El Nino is still one of the strongest on record, but it has not brought monster storms our way yet.
We're hoping for a real bumper year of high water totals, lots of snow and lots of precipitation. That hasn't really happened so far, but at least it's been normal, so that's a lot better than we've had in the previous years.
So as we move into 2016, Californians don't yet have any reason to be pessimistic about the drought getting worse. But so far, El Nino hasn't offered us any reason to get optimistic about the drought getting better. David Wagner, KPBS News.
And to see the KPBS Drought Tracker yourself, go to kpbs.org/drought tracker. Trees are having a hard time surviving the drought here in California. That's according to new data released by the Carnegie Institute for Science. The data counts as many as 58 million trees across the state experiencing severe water loss that could in turn have a serious effect on wildlife. NASA says the powerful El Niño in the Pacific shows no sign of weakening. NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab just released some new images from its Jason 2 satellite showing high sea surface heights along the equator, which means a thicker layer of warm water. The agency says the pictures look very similar to a picture taken during a very strong El Niño back in 1997. El Niño is expected to make an impact on the U.S. early next year. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer will send his final proposal for keeping the Chargers to the NFL tomorrow. That's the deadline for 3 cities, San Diego, St. Louis, and Oakland, to make their final pitches to make their teams from moving to Los Angeles. The NFL says it's already received the St. Louis plan. A spokesman for Faulconer says San Diego's final proposal will not be much different from the terms the city has already laid out. And San Diego home prices are on the decline, according to a report released today. The monthly Case-Shiller Index says prices were down 0.3% in October compared to the month before. San Diego was one of 8 major real estate markets to experience a drop in prices. And when measured on an annual scale, prices looked stronger, up over 6% from the same time last year. The report also shows San Diego's home values more than doubled over almost 16 years. Dozens of petitions are being circulated right now for potential ballot initiatives in California. One of them could add a new tax surcharge to residential and commercial properties. The measure only applies to properties worth more than $3 million. The money would fund anti-poverty programs. Proponents got a $700,000 donation from the Daughters of Charity Foundation to put the measure on the 2016 ballot. But opponents say it may contradict current caps on property taxes protected by state law.
This is easily a doubling of property taxes, or opens the door to a doubling of property taxes for high-value properties.
Proponents of the measure must collect 580,000 voter signatures to put it on the ballot. New research from San Diego's VA Medical Center suggests e-cigarettes may not be a safe alternative to smoking tobacco. From our North County Bureau, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says researchers discovered that e-cigarettes damage human cells.
VA researchers exposed human cells to the vapor extracted from 2 popular e-cigarette brands. The cells were exposed for a total of 24 to 48 hours. The cells showed multiple forms of damage, regardless of whether the e-cigarette vapor contained nicotine. Dr. Jessica Wang Rodriguez is chief of pathology at San Diego's VA Medical Center. She says it's hard to know exactly what in e-cigarettes caused the damage.
I know some of them contain formaldehyde. I mean, that's a known carcinogen, but there may be other things that are in there that we don't really know about.
E-cigarettes are advertised as a safer way to smoke, but manufacturers are not required to disclose what ingredients are in their products. Wang Rodriguez says more independent research is needed. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
In the last year and a half, only a few medical marijuana dispensaries have managed to get permits. But that doesn't mean the business isn't thriving. As KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen explains, the business is just moving from storefronts to doorsteps.
It's been 8 months since the grand opening of San Diego's first legal pot dispensary, a green alternative. Getting the permit to operate in an Otay Mesa shopping center was no easy task. San Diego's tough zoning regulations restrict dispensaries to a few locations. Despite those tough rules, the city ignores another area of medical marijuana regulation: delivery of pot to patients.
Sticky.
And the delivery service portion of our industry is perhaps one of the grayest and most unregulated components.
Kimberly Sims is a lawyer representing clients across the medical pot industry. She says because delivery services are less visible than storefront dispensaries, city governments have been content to look the other way.
They're not getting calls from their constituents complaining about that pesky delivery service. It's a really low neighborhood and environmental impact, and so it's such a controversial topic that they're not going to invite the conversation to their doorsteps.
A quick search on weedmaps.com shows a couple dozen brick-and-mortar pot shops operating in San Diego, some legally, some not. But when you search delivery services, more than 100 come up. If that weren't enough, a host of third-party apps and websites are also joining in. One of the biggest is Ease. It began operations in San Diego this past summer. I tried it out myself to see how it works. First, you create an account online using a California state ID. If you don't already have a doctor's recommendation for marijuana...
Andrew, how are you doing, sir? Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. My name's Dr. Davidson. I'll be helping you out this afternoon.
Hi, doctor.
The site ease.md can set up a video conference with a licensed doctor.
No bad reactions to cannabis in the past, no other major medical history.
I told him I have trouble falling asleep sometimes, and he wrote me a recommendation in minutes.
Once I approve you, you instantly get a PDF file in your account. It's good anywhere in the state of California for a year.
Right away, you can shop a range of cannabis products, place your order, and presto, the pot is delivered to your door.
Hey,
how's it going?
Good, all right.
From creating my account to getting the marijuana, it took me less than 45 minutes, and I barely had to get up off the couch.
You can smell it now.
Full disclosure, we carried out this delivery as a demonstration. We didn't purchase the marijuana. Ease is headquartered in San Francisco. I met the founder and CEO, Keith McCarty, there.
Yeah, so welcome to Ease. This is our San Francisco office. We have roughly 50 employees here.
He says the company is targeting all kinds of people.
We have marketing, customer support.
Particularly ones who don't see themselves as potheads or stoners.
The stay-at-home soccer mom is not going to go to the current MMJ doctor, right? Or they're not going to go to the CD neighborhood for the dispensary. They want the easy, quick, and professional, and maybe even discreet way in which they can receive and even consume the medicine.
Ease's headquarters feels like any other Silicon Valley startup. It's a transparently for-profit company, even though California prohibits for-profit sales of marijuana. Ease says it's not selling marijuana. Instead, it partners with local pot cooperatives and facilitates the delivery of their medicine.
We're not a collective. We're not a dispensary. We're a technology service provider. In the same way that Microsoft sells Microsoft Office to dispensaries and profits from it, even though the dispensary is using it to drive productivity.
You want to know where your product is coming from.
Kimberly Sims says San Diego's delivery services will soon fall under California's new medical marijuana regulations. But while those rules are being fleshed out, third-party sites like Ease can push delivery services to be more compliant with the law.
You now have a travel manifest, you now have receipts, you have far more records than a delivery service might be keeping when left to their own devices.
Ease says it's using technology to improve health care, but Californians will likely be voting on whether to legalize recreational pot next year. And with billions in profits waiting to be made, Ease and its competitors are preparing for that bigger and more regulated market. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Earlier tonight, we told you about the cold weather expected tonight. KPBS weather reporter Molly Cochran gives us the forecast for the first days of 2016.
Quieter conditions coming into San Diego County. We can see our satellite radar really reflecting that. We'll have smooth sailing for the rest of tonight from LA into San Diego. Some of that cloud cover hangs out farther off to the east. A few spotty showers near Phoenix and also some snow showers in the higher elevations. We still have a dip in the jet stream, but as I mentioned yesterday, that's pushing farther off to the east. So that's going to give way to quiet skies tonight. Ramona into Oceanside, also towards Camp Pendleton, into Mount Laguna as well. It will have dry skies for the remainder of the evening. Temperatures, though, going to be dipping into the teens across the mountainous regions. In Borrego Springs will come in at 27, also at 27 in Ramona, 44 in San Diego, also in the lower 40s for Chula Vista. Pretty close to average for this time of year, especially along the immediate coastline, and we will be looking at, once again, mainly clear skies. This is really how we're going to stay into the middle half of the week. We can see that dip in the jet stream. That's again off to our east. Temperatures pretty close to where they should be coming in for this time of year as well across Southern California. So as we start this off for our futurecast temperatures at 3 a.m. in the mid-40s, Oceanside into San Diego, 46 in Chula Vista, 38 in Alpine, 38 also in Mount Laguna. As we push this forward into about 6 a.m., really not going to see too much of a change out there, but you could be headed into work at this hour, so the long sleeves, the lighter jacket doing just fine. As we head into the lunchtime hour, temperatures rise into the mid to upper 60s along the immediate coastline. coastline. Oceanside right around 62. We're actually getting into the 70s in Long Beach for our temperature right around noon on Wednesday. Here's a look at our extended forecast because you probably have those New Year's Eve plans coming up on Thursday night. Temperatures along the coastline, it's going to be chilly in the 30s, so we'll need that jacket if you are going to be outstanding for a while. New Year's Day temperatures pretty close to average for this time of year with some sunshine. Next chance to see some cloud cover moving into the region Sunday night. That's when we could be looking at a passing shower also along the immediate coastline. Farther inland, New Year's Eve looking good and dry. Overnight low of 46. By Friday, we'll have plenty of bright sunshine for the first official day of 2016. And again, it's just going to be pretty seasonable for this time of year. Mountainous regions going to be in the 40s for Thursday, 25 for Thursday night, so bundle up, hat and scarf weather for sure. The chilly conditions hang on into Friday. And the desertous regions also going to be quiet and a little bit on the cool side Thursday. Also should mention we're going to be turning pretty breezy across the mountainous region and also into the desert regions for Thursday. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
The standoff between wildlife officials and an elephant seal who is determined to cross a busy highway in the San Francisco Bay Area is over tonight. The SF Gate reports a veterinarian successfully tranquilized the wayward mammal who repeatedly waddled into traffic on Monday, despite efforts of rescue workers to return the seal to open water. The 900-pound seal was loaded onto a truck, and officials say she will be released back into the wild. Away from the road, she appeared to find quite irresistible. The wreck of the Canadian destroyer Yukon is a magnet for divers looking for adventure near the San Diego coast. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson explains how the ship tells us more about life under the sea.
Barbara Lloyd's boat bobs up and down in the open ocean.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep the swell, so.
She's about a mile west of Mission Beach. La Jolla lies to the north, Point Loma to the south.
This is the Yukon, and it is an artificial reef that's about the size of a football field, so that's quite a bit of distance. Most divers only dive about half of it.
The San Diego Oceans Foundation spent $250,000 15 years ago to bring the warship here. It was cleaned up and sunk in about 130 feet of water. She's diving on this day with Michael Baer, an experienced diver and underwater photographer. With cameras rolling, they'll be adding to a growing database of information. Lloyd says the current tugs on divers on the first plunge. But it's usually a short swim to the anchored descent line. The journey is straight down from there.
And so you'll go from this really clear water, you think, oh my God, this is going to be the most amazing dive, and sometimes it is. And then all of a sudden you go into this dark green, murky water.
The idea is to record how sea life is doing on the hard surfaces, the nooks and the crannies of the ship. Lloyd says it takes a minute or two after the descent for the eyes to adjust.
Then you start seeing, and especially if you have lights, you see these little riots of color, right? So they could be the strawberry anemones, and they're brilliant, or the white anemones. There's a couple different species of these white anemones that show up. And so you'll have greens and pinks and whites and browns and rusts.
And that's quite a change over 15 years. Michael Baer worked with the crew that cleaned up the warship before it sank. He was also among the early divers.
In the first few months, you don't notice that much. But the remarkable difference comes a year or two down the road when you haven't dived it in a while. And you dive it, and all of a sudden you're noticing sea life where there was not sea life before. And that's the truly remarkable difference.
Baer wants to help document the change that's happened since then. The ongoing Citizen Science Survey allows recreational divers to share their underwater photography. The video and photos will be collected and curated.
So you definitely are going to notice differences over time, and that's part of the purpose of the study, is to scientifically track which species are leaving and which are coming in.
And some of those species are more than a bit surprising. A diver recently captured on film something that isn't common in these cool ocean waters. It's called a salp chain.
It's a gelatinous colony animal that drifts with the currents. And they just happened to be on the Yukon as they were photographing something else, and this salp chain kind of sort of photobombed the photo, and they got a photograph of the salt chain, so now we have that species logged in our database.
One reason the Yukon attracts such a variety of different plants and animals is that the ship stands in stark contrast to the sandy ocean floor.
Here's a kelp strand that actually fell on the ground.
Scripps Institution of Oceanography researcher Ed Parnell led the first underwater study on the Yukon a few years after the ship's sinking.
The artificial reef provides lots of structure for lots of invertebrates and fish to live on. So it's kind of an interesting recreational area for divers, an important area for recreational fishermen as well to target those species that they're after.
Okay, Mike, here it is.
The site is clearly marked on the surface, making it easy for fishing boats to drop anchor here. Parnell says that feeds a debate about whether fishing saps the potential impact artificial reefs have on fish populations. He also wonders about the long-term environmental impact of the ship.
But as it slowly deteriorates, a lot of the metals, the fouling paint that wasn't completely cleaned off of it, as well as the PCBs in the bulkheads, which like PCB doesn't break down, it's a legacy pollutant. The fate of those materials in that food web out there on the shelf is not known, it's not well studied.
Parnell says he expects the Yukon to be part of the local landscape for decades, and he says tracking and recording the life around the ship will help scientists understand the vessel's impact over time. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next News Hour, a major new cybersecurity law that slipped under the radar. It's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
Tomorrow night, Wisconsin and USC will face off on the gridiron for the Holiday Bowl. Today, their marching bands went toe-to-toe in the Battle of the Bands. KPBS reporter Matt Bowler brings us the sounds of a fight nobody lost.
The morning started out quiet behind the convention center just south of the 5th Street Pier. Before the Badgers and Trojans fight it out on the football field, each school sent 2 teams to a different kind of grassy field. He which hath no stomach for this fight, let him depart. This is the Holiday Bowl, Battle of the Bands. Former Wisconsin Senator Brian Patterson says the bands get rambunctious, but it's all in fun.
I mean, there's no sharks and jets here. Everybody's a winner today, so.
The Holiday Bowl's been coming to Qualcomm Stadium since 1978. And if you want to hear and see these battling bands, the game is tomorrow night, 7:30. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
And a San Diego marching band is making an appearance in an upcoming bowl game parade. 250 students from Mira Mesa High School headed up to Pasadena today. The Sapphire Sound will march in the 127th Rose Parade on New Year's Day. The last time a marching band from the district went to the Rose Parade was when Patrick Henry performed in 1983. It's hard to imagine how a video store can make it in a world of online rentals and streaming. Well, San Diego's Kensington Video is going to give it another try. KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone says after a brief closure, the film lovers' sanctuary is open once again.
It may look different, but the new Kensington Video still has its most famous employee, 88-year-old Winnie Hanford.
I talk to people. I tell them everything. The fellow was just in a while ago. He said his shoulder was hurting him. Told him to go home and put ice on it. Take a Motrin.
And she didn't stop there.
No, I did. I told him every night he had to eat 4 prunes.
You want the Cornell Wild one?
Ken Video is a family business. Winnie is the matriarch. Her son Guy runs the video store, and his nephew opened a juice bar in the same space. Hilliard and Marianne Harper of Scripps Ranch popped in to get a smoothie in a movie.
We liked the choices. They had so much variety, and sometimes movies we couldn't find other places.
Another new feature, you'll have to browse the store's 70,000 films online or on the iPads at the store. Guy Hanford will then retrieve your video.
Great, thanks. That's probably the biggest change for Kensington Video, that we'll be able to streamline like that. And it's not to just get the customer in and out. It's actually to have more time talking with them and discussing film.
Hanford installed a large screen for film screenings and discussion groups. He said he did have some doubts about reopening a movie rental store in the current culture of online viewing, but other priorities took over.
It wasn't about necessarily cornering the market or making money necessarily. I'd like to pay the bills, but it was about having something for my mom and myself to do. We were just bored with retirement, and we missed all of our customers.
As for Winnie, she couldn't wait to return to the long days behind the counter telling customers about movies.
You just are not going to retire? I guess not. I think this is the spot where I'll finally just, whoop. Yeah. She died right there. That's okay.
Kensington Video will have its official grand opening at the end of January. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
And we've got more news online at kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.